name is Brooke Bahnsen. I am a librarian at the Fremont Public Library and a former GISLIS grad. And today we have a panel of CyberNavigators. We have 5 different people from the Chicago Public Library, and they're each going to spend a few minutes, 10 or less, introducing themselves, talking about their jobs, what they do, a little bit of background, where they come from, and talking about how they help people in the Chicago public system. And then we will open it up for questions, and we'll have a lot of time to discuss. So take notes and feel free to think of things that you can ask them to share our experiences. We're going to pass the microphone so the recording people can listen online as well. And we're going to start with Kameron. And go ahead.
Hello, my name is Kameron Locke. I'm a CyberNavigator at Hall Library. It's located on the south side in the Brownsville neighborhood. In regards to the patrons that I typically assist, it ranges because the community, it has like affluent points, and then there are also areas where there's like poverty. And so it just typically ranges in the assistance that I have to provide. I started with the program through a referral from the branch manager at Sandra's library, and I was an intern with the summer reading program. In relation to my interaction with computer and technology, the best way I can describe it is I've always been good with computers, in quotation marks, and just trying out various things and to become more knowledgeable with just different applications and internet sources and whatnot. When working at Hall Library, and I've been there roughly about 2 years now, I typically assist patrons with resume assistance, searching for jobs, but there are also quite a few that are just completely unaware of how to work a computer. And it's surprising and startling that it's really that many people, and a lot of them can often be like in their 20s or 30s, and you're just like, oh, you don't know how to do that, wow. Well, but like the best you can do is just like be patient with them, because they're always wanting to learn and to, get on the, I guess, ladder with everyone else. And so typically people that want to come to the library often want help with searching for jobs. And the most you can typically do for the patron is, other than assist them with resumes, is also to direct them to different websites that provide jobs. I often tell them that Indeed.com is a good source to find jobs. Of course, you have to narrow down the search depending on what you want to look for, but you just have to give them different types of options, because if they're so limited and already in their knowledge with computers, and you limit them with even more options or even less options, then they're just going to feel like they're stuck in a rut and they won't have any assistance. In regards to what I do, I don't study, or like my degree that I'm currently working towards, I'm still in college, is music performance. So I know that this doesn't actually relate to cyber-navigating, but as far as like my capabilities with computers and technology, it's pretty good. So that's why I feel secure in assisting the patrons. And let's see what else points. I want to make sure I get everything else. The area that I was mentioning, Brownsville neighborhood, the patrons generally, they're looking for just any type of support in any way possible that they can find. I provide computers classes. They're basic skills, so keyboard and mouse, and then gradually progressing into the internet. And typically, I feel it's best to give them the basic skills in relation to keyboard and mouse, because with that way, it's building their foundations before they proceed into learning how to actually explore the internet, because they may think that they can just press the screen to, click something, and that's not the case. You need to use the mouse for that. And so like I just find it's easier to teach patrons that are wanting to learn how to use a computer through the basic skills, so like keyboard and mouse. And overall, my experience with the CyberNavigator program, it's like when I was told about it, I was told, that there will be patrons that, will want you to go over and beyond for assistance. And I mean, I do find that's true, but if you can do the best you can for them, I find that it's easier to assist them that way or direct them to a good source that they can go to. And yeah, overall, the CyberNavigator program is great. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sarah Tansley. I am the branch manager of the Humble Park Branch Library. I am just finishing my 13th year with the Chicago Public Library, so actually my career is, but there was every branch I've ever worked in has had a CyberNavigator, so I'm pretty familiar with the program and the evolution of just what people have come in asking for and what we've used the program for in the branches over the course of this time. A little bit more about me. I started my career as a children's librarian. I've worked all over the city, primarily on the south side. For the past year, while my branch was closed for renovation, I was the interim YOUMedia manager. So my responsibilities included the main library YOUMedia, the staff there, programming and so forth, and then also the 3 branches at that time that had a YOUMedia. My branch reopened on February 9th, and we also have a YOUMedia. We're the first dedicated middle school YOUMedia space. So with our renovation and 5,000 square foot addition, that space includes a YOUMedia. What also makes this YOUMedia unique for middle schoolers is that it's a STEM-based YOUMedia. So Michelle had mentioned Fuse. That would be our partner for that space, and it's a science-based geeking out technology program, but there's still the hanging out and messing around parts of the socializing and I guess free will of library use in that space. So a little bit about my community of Humble Park. Now that I'm pretty much back to being a full-time branch manager, our new YOUMedia manager started about 2 weeks ago. So I'm not completely free of YOUMedia yet, but pretty close. So I'll talk a little bit more about Humble Park. Humble Park is a really unique community to work in, and it's definitely a challenge for our CyberNavigators and our librarians alike, because it is a gentrifying community. So we have a really wide base of needs, and this is just across the board, library and technology related. So we can have someone come in and have a question that's very about the actual like installing a new program on their MacBook. And then we can also have someone come in 15 minutes later who might not have the ability to use a computer at all. So that diversity becomes a challenge, and it's also a challenge as a librarian to meet the needs of this vast community in all of the different languages spoken, socioeconomic challenges that folks face. I think the biggest thing I can reflect upon the CyberNavigator program is probably that while we have had, definitely have taught a lot of folks computer skills over time, technology is also changing. So one of the ways that a CyberNavigator is so helpful in the library is that even folks with a high level of tech skills can come in and use the program. So I remember when we had CyberNavigators, and my very first job was at Thomas Hughes Children's Library, and people had never played a CD-ROM game. That was like the big thing, is we had CD-ROM games, and the kids would come in and play like Arthur or whatever, and it was that basic. And so it was taking folks, it wasn't even getting on the internet necessarily. And now we find that we have folks asking about specific programs, they're asking about programming, they're asking about a lot of like computer building type. We have a partner in our community that teaches how to rebuild a computer as a job skill, and then they get the computer when they graduate. And so that program is really fantastic, but then it also poses a challenge to us because folks come in asking for books about things like I don't necessarily know because I've never built a computer. So there's a lot of diversity there, and I think it's easy to say something like, well, everybody knows computers now, everybody knows how to use the internet, so why do you need a CyberNavigator? But think of how much technology has changed in these 13 years and how there's just always a new, whether it's online or program-based technology, software to learn. A big thing right now in our community is eBay, and I don't know if it's spring and everybody's cleaning out their closets and they got a lot of stuff to sell, like they've got their garage. But I think that our CyberNavigator spends probably 50% of her time walking through what eBay is and how it works and how to represent yourself as a good seller online, how to create a good profile, how to be trustworthy. And because it's more than just like getting on and clicking and selling things, it's also about building a reputation as a business person, if you will. So these are all pretty sophisticated skills. I look forward on the YOUMedia side, I think is merging a little bit of the skills that my CyberNavigator has with the traditional adult community with the teens in the YOUMedia space. Because what I think a challenge that we haven't quite overcome yet is that we assume the kids who are born in the digital age have skills, and I think that what is they have the skills on the surface, right? But I like to equate it a little bit to my dad, who is a lovely person, but has been retired since computers have been relevant, really. And he knows how to get around, but he doesn't really know always what he's doing. And he looks like he knows what he's doing, though. And then all of a sudden he calls you, and he's like explaining what he did, and you're like, why would you ever click on that? Why would you do, what are you doing? Are you reading the screen? And you're not really sure. And I'm like, how did he get into this pickle? But it's the same thing you'll find 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds doing. They think they know. They can navigate around a web page just fine. But are they actually like taking in the information? Are they actually being critical learners online? Are they actually, or are they just going through the motions? And I think that that's really like a next challenge for CyberNavigators is working with people who look like they have the skills, and teens and kids who look like they have the skills, but really aren't taking it all in. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jaime Bravo. I have been working as a CyberNavigator for about a little over 2 years in the Brighton Park neighborhood, so Brighton Park branch. I am currently a student at DePaul University, majoring in industrial organizational psychology. I'll be graduating in June. And pretty much that background has really assisted me in helping like patrons in learning like the computer skills and the knowledge. And I really enjoy like, the training and development of the patrons. So my neighborhood, the neighborhood I work in is predominantly Latino, and a lot of the patrons that come in the neighborhood don't have the basic computer skills. So much of the help that I do there is basic computer skills. They do not know how to use a mouse, keyboard, which is sort of surprising. Our branch has 8 adult computers, 8 children computers, and we just got 4 laptops, which is very helpful for patrons to understand how how to work a laptop. Let's see. For Bryant Park, since it's predominantly Latino, the assistance that I do break it down as for seniors who come in. They're usually they receive gifts from their sons or daughters, like a laptop or a tablet, and they're like, I want to use this, and that's what I'm there for, to assist them in using these new tech stuff. And for adults at Bryant Park, pretty much creating a resume. They're looking for jobs, applying for government services, a lot of unemployment. So I'm pretty good at looking through that website now, assisting them with jobs, job search, printing out pay stubs, which has become electronic for a lot of jobs now. And also for a lot of Latino parents that come in, they want to help their children with their homework, but they cannot translate the instructions. So that's what I'm also there for, because I am bilingual, so I do a lot of translating at my branch as well. And I work with parents and children in logging into the computer, helping them do a search, opening LibreOffice, which is really helpful, because a lot of the patrons, the parents there, and the families don't have a computer at home, so they're coming into the branch because they need to type up a report or do a simple search. And then for children, just helping them log into like any of the social networking sites, and just pretty much helping them be aware of. I do a lot of like sort of not mentoring, but I do tell them to be aware of like how to use Facebook and Twitter and things like that. So far, yeah, that's about it.
Hello. I'm Liv Hanson, and I'm the CyberNavigator at the Lincoln Belmont branch, and I've been there for about a year. I guess we're similar to what I'm hearing from a lot of people. On the one hand, it is a fairly affluent community. There are a lot of families, but there's also a senior center and a YMCA, so it ends up being a very mixed group who come in. One thing that I found really interesting this year, though, is across the board, people are job hunting. And so I have helped people who are directors of organizations looking for work in other nonprofit groups get signed in on LinkedIn. It'll be the first time they're using it. I've also helped people get signed up for Indeed.com. And one of the big things that we've been doing too is using Google Maps to look for restaurants and bakeries in the area, so that people who have food or kitchen skills know what's available, so that they can go in and actually talk to restaurant managers and have, you know, the in-person interaction as well. Another thing that we're seeing a lot, eBay not so much, but Craigslist this time of year. People are selling the things in their garages. And again, people are using it for job hunting and trying to find out how they can better analyze some of the ads that they come across on Craigslist. So that's a really interesting new challenge. What's a scam and what's a good job ad? And again, you know, people who don't use computers as much, which that's not even one community, that's just people who haven't had to use computers as often, struggle with sort of figuring out what's safe, what's not safe. Ebooks, that's one of the most exciting new things that the Chicago Public Library is doing, are ebooks and e-audiobooks. And so I do a lot of instruction with people bringing in their devices, because even with some smartphones, you know, you can install now an Overdrive app so that you can access our resources digitally. So I do a lot of help with that. And then linguistically, actually a lot of the families in our area employ nannies, many of whom, for whom English is not their first language, and many of them are also going through the immigration process. So I use Google Translate a lot I am fluent in French, but I don't speak Arabic or Russian or Spanish, and I hear a lot of different languages, which is very exciting. So we're definitely a huge resource for a variety of people. And then homework help for students, navigating the databases safely and evaluating lab resources. So I do a lot of that. And my background, if you read my bio, is pretty scattered. So I come in into the library field having worked as an acrobat, a baker, and a bunch of other things where I've had to use technology to help me find jobs, but also use, social networking in a real world sense as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Sandra Goldfield and I am the CyberNavigator at the South Shore branch, and I've been there for about a year and a half. I am originally from the great state of Texas, and I've been in Chicago for about 20 years, so I guess I am now a Chicagoan. I am finishing up my degree in Library and Information Science at UIUC. I'm in the LEAP program, and that's actually how I found out about the cyber navigating program, because I was taking community informatics with Professor Williams, and Roberto was looking to fill a couple of positions, and I was fortunate to get one of those jobs. So I'm at South Shore, which is at 73rd, really close to the lake, so I'm on the south side. It is primarily an African American community. It is primarily a low income community. There's a few pockets that aren't low income, but when you just look at the area around the library, you can tell that there's a lot of unemployment, there's kind of a lot of people hanging out, definitely low income, a lot of people looking for jobs. So in the library, I guess I'm the go-to gal for all of the patron questions that involve a computer, just like everybody else. I do want to talk just for a second about the librarians and the staff at South Shore. I feel like I have a really great rapport with them. They're really fantastic, and I think they all really appreciate having a cyber navigator in the library, because I have the time to spend an hour with someone in that one-on-one session to help them create a resume or apply for a job. And librarians and staff members simply just don't have that amount of time to spend with individual patrons, because they have so many responsibilities to all the patrons that come into the library, and then just all of their day-to-day activities. And then my favorite part of the job is definitely establishing the relationships with the patrons. I've really enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed getting to know the community. And the patrons that come into South Shore, for the most part, do not have their own computers, although I am seeing more and more laptops and a few tablets. So those folks are coming in to access the Wi-Fi because they may not have internet at home. But I help patrons with a lot of computer basics, a lot of email registration, just like everybody else, resumes, a lot of job searches, a lot of government sites. I seem to help a lot of people access the site to help them acquire a government phone. That's a big thing. And then I also, while I'm helping people with the basics, I really try to think about, how else they might be able to use the computer, and really think about helping people just, access this wealth of information once they learn how to use the mouse and the keyboard that they have at their disposal just by having a computer. So I try to go beyond when it's appropriate of just doing resumes and job searches. So they understand that they just really have the world at their fingertips, and that's very exciting for new computer users to understand. So I feel really fortunate to have this position, and I think it will help me in what I hope will be a longer library career. So I think there's a lot of GISLIS students in the audience, it looks like, so I would encourage anybody that has the opportunity to either volunteer or work as a CN. I mean, you really get this just terrific library experience, and you get this great experience just working one-on-one with patrons, which I think is just invaluable. The last thing I do want to mention, this comes up a lot, is internet security, and I think Olivia mentioned that a little bit. That's a big question that I get from a lot of patrons, especially new computer users. They're very nervous about putting any information out there for other people to potentially find. So I do find that I talk a lot about, how to be safe on the internet, how to maintain privacy if you're using social networking. I've kind of used the EverFi program a lot for this with their identity protection module. So that's just a really big part of what I do. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening.
Did you want to comment on that? We can open it up for questions. I have a few questions for the whole panel about how many times do you have to see or help a patron before they feel comfortable on their own? For example, learning the mouse, is that a 1-hour session? Can they come back 10 times in a row if they want? And how often are you at the library? So what are your hours like, and are there other CyberNavigators at your branch also?
Well, we work 20 hours at libraries. As far as my schedule, I'm there 5 times a week for 4 hours. And I try to schedule myself when I see the most people coming in. So I do like two late nights and 2 early mornings to also get some adults who want to come in. As far as training, the one-on-ones, I do get a lot of seniors doing the online computer basics. And for the seniors, I tell them you can come as many times as you want. Usually they're very unsure and they need reinforcement. And I usually tell them, you can, once I teach them the basics, and they ask me, is this okay? I'm like, I am not going to tell you. I'll only tell you if you are making a mistake. But I mean, I want them to do it on their own and not ask me every step of the way once they've already, once we already established, a good report, just so that they can start doing it on their own and they can just come into the library, research their computer, and just do a search and do that. So usually what I see for individuals, they do come more than 1 hour sessions, and they're usually faithful patrons. They just keep coming back.
Yeah, I work 3 times out of the week at my library, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Typically Wednesday, the beginning of the week, Monday, those are usually the busier days, but due to my school schedule, I'm unable to, work on those days. But Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm there roughly 6 hours. And so throughout those times, I'm able to assist many patrons. The ones that are coming to the library and come to the library often, they know my schedule, and so they'll try their best to be as flexible with my schedule as I can be with them. And like Jaime said, I work 20 hours a week. In regards to patrons that, let's say they're wanting to learn a mouse or the keyboard, typically there are often seniors that want to do this because, let's say they want to email their friends or talk to their sister or something, and that individual already is experienced with computers, so they want to get on board with them. So There are quite a few that, you assist them, let's say like during my computer class, I just set for an hour. So throughout that time, I only am provided with 4 computers. There's 4 in the adult room and 4 in the juvenile room. So I provide my class on Fridays from 12 to 1 during the time which children are in school. But since it's such a limited amount of computers, I'm only able to assist. I tell the individuals, like, if you want to do 30-minute sessions, we could do that, but typically I would prefer to do an hour-long session with at least 4 patrons throughout that time, because they will be able to at least have more ability to try out the keyboard, more time to try out the mouse. So if they're unable to, which I do try to inform them that, it's best to come at least consistently if you want to learn this, because let's say you take 2 weeks off from attending a class or coming for a one-on-one session, you just pretty much will more than likely forget if you haven't taken notes or if you haven't practiced outside of coming to the library for my help. But I mean, those that do want to come often and that do feel that they need to brush up on things, like I'll do my best to assist them, because like that's most all you can do. You want to be able to help them the best way you can and let them know that it will be possible to learn this technique or this skill as long as you feel that you can put the work and effort into doing it. And that's it.
As I could say, we do it just slightly different at Humboldt Park. Because of the high demand, we do appointment-only one-on-one sessions. They're 45 minutes with 15 minutes in between, so if somebody just has quick questions for our CyberNavigator, she can assist people in between her sessions, just answer quick questions and be on hand. That appointment book is filled up to 2 weeks in advance. So what we find is that, she's also there 20 hours a week. What we find is that just because of the demand, folks have to take a couple days off between their appointments, but she's very great at encouraging them to come in, and of course she can always ask library staff, or patrons can ask library staff for help in addition, but it also kind of forces them, like the high demand kind of forces them out on their own, like gets them out of the nest, and we find that they do progress a little bit better and they're willing to come in on their own. So that's our experience.
I am there 20 hours a week, as well, all of us. I try to be there 4 or 5 days a week. My schedule jumps around a little bit because I'm also a library associate at another branch, so I balance the hours between the two. But I try to be there both mornings, evenings, and at least 1 weekend day to 2 weekend days a month, just because there are a variety of people. I would say, for somebody who comes in and they're not even really comfortable using a mouse yet, I might only sign them up for a half-hour session, because it's so easy to go into overload that you can spend half an hour playing around, but I might see them 2 or 3 times a week, and that might be for a couple weeks that I'm seeing them and we're working on that. And I find for most people, usually, I would say within 2.5 weeks to a month, you see a lot more confidence. And then they're at a point where, because they know me, they can sign in on their own. And if they're having a problem, they at least know what my hours are, so they can give me a wave and say, hey, can you come over? And, and I can help them troubleshoot whatever little issue it is that they have.
I think it's all pretty similar. At South Shore, I do a sign-up sheet also for one-on-one appointments, and that fills up a couple weeks out. So I stay very busy when I'm there. And when I do classes, I kind of try to do a little series of computer basics, and I find if I do like 4 classes, then after that patrons are coming back and trying to access the computers on their own, and they'll still ask for help, of course. But I think after those 4 sessions, they seem to kind of be on their own a little bit. But I do want to mention a specific patron. Roberto will probably know who it is. His name is Mike. He said I could say his name. And he's someone that I've worked with for now a pretty long period of time. And he comes in twice a week. And he's very dedicated. He's like the perfect library patron. Everybody loves him, and he's delightful in every way. But when he first came in, he said he wanted to learn everything about computers. He had never touched a computer before. I'm like, fantastic. So we started on the desktop computers, basic stuff, and then he just really got interested in everything. And then when South Shore got laptops, we started working on those. And then he wanted to find out about different laptops out there. And one day he walked in and he had purchased his own laptop, and now he's talking about getting internet at home. So he's gone from knowing absolutely nothing to being able to operate on Windows 8, which I'm having trouble figuring out. Like, what are these gems? What is all this stuff? But you can still find a regular desktop on it, which I discovered. But so he's like this incredible success story, and I feel like speaks to kind of what this program is all about, because he is retired, so he doesn't need to use the computer for job searching, but he uses the computer to find out all kinds of information. He's really interested in science, so he looks up a lot of astronomy, looks at astronomy websites, and it's now thinking more critically about the information that he accesses. And it just is, I don't know, it's very exciting to me that he can do all of this on his own. So, you can have it.
I'm a brother, and I'm the manager of the CyberNavigators. So I have a comment and then a question. And the comment is that regarding Sarah's comment about this fellow putting things on eBay or Craigslist for sale. And that a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, that were the first time that I was seeing these on the reports. And so at the beginning, I think when you hear those things, sometimes they sound good, they sound interesting, but there might be a lacking of appreciation for it. Because when I read about that one the first time, this was Jeffrey Manor, and Jeffrey Manor, like South Shore and a few of the South End branches, it is a mostly African American branch with a lot of unemployment and very economically disadvantaged. But so you hear about this fellow going to a garage sale and finding some tools and basically going to the CyberNavigator and putting them on sale, and you think, oh wow, that's interesting. So okay, that's amusing. But then it turns out that week after week, this guy would come out with new stuff. Okay, so he goes out, he goes find something else, pays a couple of dollars, come back, and you get a couple of them. And so you figured out that this guy, yes, it started as fun, it was amusement. But if you do that many times, enough times, suddenly you become a small business. You see, and so that's when it came to me that, wow, it is fun, it sounds good, but it is very powerful for these patients to do that. And especially in the South Side, when you can go around garage sales or go to the dump yard and see and find some treasures in there. So that was the comment, that appreciation that I got from reading something like that. The other thing is that I don't mean to put Jaime on the spot, but the thing is, when I interview people for CyberNavigators, and mainly when I interview the students, are there any students here? Okay. It is interesting now. At the beginning, when we started this incarnation back in 2008, I was basically interviewing anybody from undergrads, no problem. Anybody we got. We put the posting on Craigslist, and like in a span of 2 hours, there were 200 people already with email. So it was challenging to put a filter on it. Now with the help of Kate and the help with other students at Dominican, the pool has been very well refined. When I talk to library students, I know that they got a master's, they're a little bit older, they're a little bit more mature, but then the attitude that I sense is that it belongs to them. They're there, they want to be a CyberNavigator, and it's almost like a natural step to be to go into the library then. However though, I always wonder how would somebody from another point of view see it, and so always been interested in, say, the social worker aspect of it. And knowing that Jaime has some background in social work, I just, again, if you feel uncomfortable, don't blurt it out though. But how would you do that pitch as a social worker, that social workers are indeed prepared to play the role of CyberNavigator?
Well, I would say that as a social worker, you really need to find resources to help the community. And as a CyberNavigator and working in a low-income community, I just had a vast majority of patrons coming in with assistance for government services like phone. In the winter, there's CETA, which is helping for patrons pay later gas bills and unemployment. And in the point of view of a social worker, I had to search for these resources and have them available for the community to come in, especially ESL classes as well. Just a number of things that, as a social worker, you would have to provide your patron or whoever comes in for help.
Who's better prepared?
Who's better prepared?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it kind of building on that same idea of the social worker, and we might not always, as librarians, be equipped to solve someone's problem, but what we always have been able to do since the beginning of time, and a few of us who have been with CPL for a really long time, the time of the tiger binder, where we would the librarian would find the resources and photocopy them and put them in a binder so that they were easily at hand. But what we are there to do is to know the community capital that is out there that we can refer people to. And it's at such a wide range of levels, where it's socially, for low economic reasons. What about, I don't know how many times we get questions, probably on both ends, about getting into selective enrollment schools. That's always in the fall. All of these applications, all of these things that people need to access to better their lives and all these different levels are available through the internet more and more. So it's a matter of, I think for them, they get an advantage as the CyberNavigator of that one-on-one time. So building that relationship that we can't always do as librarians. I do have patrons that feel comfortable opening up to me and asking for help, but really that one-on-one time and building that relationship helps them actually ask you that question that they might be ashamed or embarrassed or just not feel comfortable asking me. So I think that that's kind of, we have to work together as a team to make sure that we're answering all of those questions, appropriately. But for the most part, it's like just hand in hand, what we're all doing in the branch.
I really want to piggyback on that last question, because I think that future librarians make great CyberNavigators, neighborhood people make great CyberNavigators, social workers make great. At a certain point, it's like an each one teach one situation, that anyone who's willing to be a CyberNavigator can do that work, and that's almost what we need, because it's such an overwhelming flow of people who need this kind of advice or that kind of training, etc. The question I have for you all is, the title of the session is 14 Years Going Strong. I don't know if the originators would have said, oh yeah, we'll have CyberNavigators in 14 years. I think they thought everyone was going to cut across the digital divide in like a summer or two. No, it hasn't worked like that. Which is why we put this out, because we want to promote cybernavigating. So I'm passing this stack around for you all to take as many as you would like to share with people. But my question for you is, okay, 14 years. Not all of you have been part of this for 14 years, but we're still at it. Based on your experience and your discussions with staff and patrons, are there innovations that you can see that might be called for? I think it's really interesting that Michelle's presentation led off with innovation labs. So the CyberNavigator program has been very stable, thanks to the work of Patty Sieber and others at the foundation. We need to call Patty's name as well, sitting next to Roberto. But what are possible innovations that you think might really help the library and our patrons move forward? I know getting the flash drives opened up and getting LibreOffice were two really key innovations, but what else? They might not be technological, they might be social. I'm interested to know what's on all your minds. I think one thing, and we've already been hearing some questions about this, but the Chicago Public Library's website actually has tons of great links to community resources on it, but people still struggle to find where those resources are located on the webpage because it's a few clicks to get there, and then sometimes you're having to go off-site to locate things. So I think making some of those resources more visible to people, and I think all the time, how can we do that? Is it also posting things in the branch? Is it CyberNavigators and librarians doing courses for people? I mean, there are a lot of ways that we could try to work on that. But one thing is we have these great resources, and I think it's figuring out how to promote them to people and making people feel confident using them. One story for that for me would be using Illinois Legal Aid, which is one of the programs that we have, and I've had several patrons who come in with legal questions, and of course, we can't give legal advice, but we can say, well, hey, type your question in here. Maybe you can find the law group that you need to call about this, or in fact, it can even help you fill out some basic forms, which people aren't aware of. So I think it's, we have these great technological resources, so it's continuing to find ways to promote them to people and make people aware that they exist.
To piggyback off what Liv said, in regards to the CPL website, there are a lot of resources on there, but like Ashley said, often you will have to click and click and click to get to it. So I would say a little bit of simplification for it, or to just more visible for the patrons, because often they won't know, like, oh, I have to click on this to go to that site. Oh, okay. And like the introduction of LibreOffice suite, that has been extremely helpful, because often the patrons will want to type let's say a resume, or there will be students that want to type a report. Prior to that, we didn't have access to it, so they would have to at least, often before at LibreOffice, I would tell them, if you have access to a computer, if you can type it up, email it to yourself, and then you'll be able to download it to the computer, and then you can do the edits that you need to. But now with LibreOffice, you don't have to go through all those steps. And now also with allowing the USB drives to work, that is extremely helpful. If anyone wants to print out a document or also make edits to it, let's say PowerPoint, they can do that now. And before that, it was slim pickings that you could offer them. You could say go use Google Drive, but there will be issues with Google Drive as well. But I mean, it's great now that I feel like CPL is coming into the new age of technology as well. But just I would say more assistance, I would say on the website. I mean, it has revamped over time. That I've seen the edits that the computer services have made to the website. But I would just say a little bit more simplified and more visible.
I think in some sort of dream world that I have, which is I like to dream big. I think that librarians can assist in this by providing more programming with technology integrated into it. And so what I mean by that would be creating a flyer for your book club that has a QR code attached. Oh. What, I know, right? Everybody's head making sure that if you have someone in your book club that wants to use their e-reader, that you show them how to use Overdrive so that they can be a part of your book club. communicating that you're going to be using a particular book for book club so that they can purchase more digital copies of it. And just, it's little simple things where you can integrate technology, whether it be, you know, bringing in a digital camera to document and then post on Facebook about your book club. These are things that we should be doing as librarians, as it's related to promoting our programming. These guys teach the technology, but once that technology is taught, I feel like it's our responsibility to take it to the next level. And this is YOUMedia talking too. This is what happens when they send me there for a year, but I learned so much about how to make my programming relevant in just simple ways. Easy things that we do on our daily life. Take a picture, you're on vacation, and upload it to your Facebook. You know, check in at the library when you're having book club. Write a tweet. You know, these are things that we don't do as a practice as librarians at CPL. So I think that we're there though, and you know, if you give us 6 months, I think that you're going to be seeing a lot of librarians really getting into that part of embracing technology with their patrons, not on a learning level, but as practice.
I'm really itchy to piggyback off of that one too. So one of the outreach things that I got to do recently is my branch manager and I went to visit an assisted living facility. And you know, there are a lot of people who use the Chicago Public Library who can't always physically make it to a library location. And so, you know, ebooks are a great way for them to participate in our resources. I think too, you know, maybe using social networking resources like Goodreads to facilitate book club conversations. Not only that, but you know, technology too is getting to a point where if something's well designed, it should, once you have some of the basic building blocks, become somewhat more intuitive to the user. But often when you're working with somebody who is in a really difficult situation, they're job hunting, they've just lost their job, you know, there's so much tension around that it can make some of the new learning a little difficult to digest. So if you can also find fun social ways to use technology where it's a pleasure to use it. If you've ever introduced an elderly person to Pandora and they can listen to a bunch of big band music that they haven't heard in 60 years, like they will stop complaining about having to use the computer nowadays. So,
absolutely, it's not always about learning. I mean, it is learning, but it can also be fun, and I think that that is one of the things that we can always, you know, remind ourselves as librarians that a lot of what we do is very serious, but that we can incorporate a lot of fun things into our teaching, into our programming, using technology that just wasn't possible even a year ago. And then also being able to think creatively about how we present these. When Pandora wasn't here, you know, 2 years ago, you wouldn't be able to give this experience to a senior. And there's going to be a new thing tomorrow, so it's also really important for all of us to, you know, read our techie magazines and hit our blogs and stay in touch with things and just experiment, because even if it's not interesting to us, we can use it with our patrons. So.
And I also would like to see, because you were talking about going out into the community, so I wish we could do more of that. I know it's really hard in 20 hours a week, but one day when we all get to be full-time, if we could do more of that. And now with the laptops, I know they've shut off the second they walk out of the library, but I'm wondering if there's some way we could use the laptops to go to senior centers, or we have at South Shore, there's a halfway house. And I have a lot of, it's men, and a lot of men that come in and are trying to find jobs. There are a lot of ex-offenders. So if we could somehow reach like that group more, because they're on this time limit. They have to check in every hour, so they can't be away very long. But they do come into the library a lot and try to access our resources. And then also classes. I really like teaching classes a lot. I never thought I would like that, but I do. And I took Melissa Wong's instruction class. If anybody's at UIUC, it is fantastic. I think everyone should have to take it. But really learning different teaching methods and different ways that people learn, and that's helped me quite a bit, especially understanding different ways that people learn. That's helped me quite a bit as a CyberNavigator. So, I don't know, I'd like to see a little bit more, I don't want to say structure in the classes, because I think it's really great for everyone to have the autonomy to do what they need for their community, but maybe some modules that we could all follow or something like that. So,
someone in the middle over here. Do you want to come up? I think a few people have had their hands up, so we will get to all the questions.
Hi, this is to the whole panel. I was just wondering how you deal with concepts of overload and frustration, especially with users that have very low access to computers.
In regards to frustration, the patrons typically, if they haven't had experience with computers, they will already have in their mindset that this is something that they can't get past, or it's a big hurdle that they can't, defeat. And so, I see that they will sometimes just, give up altogether, or they may just be like, oh, I can't do this. Why is this so hard? But it's just, you just have to walk them through and just be patient with them. That's the most you can have with this job, be patient. Because there are a lot of patrons that do not know what they're doing. And if you are frustrated with them or you show frustration, that's not going to help them at all whatsoever. So, just reassure them that, this isn't a difficult task if you just put some time into it. Try to get this block out of your head, and I'm here to walk you through it. So that's the best you can do.
I actually would like to commend all the CyberNavigators. I mean, they're the most patient group of people you've ever met in your life. And that's probably what most of the branch staff, I can speak for whatever, everybody who works at CPL, no, I'm just kidding. I kind of can, because the thing I don't have really is the time. So if I can't solve the problem for a patron in a pretty quick way, now I have other people asking me, it starts building up, right? And then I'm losing my patience, even if it's not ideally how I'd like to handle the situation. And because they have the time and infinite patience, they're just wonderful to have in the branch at all times.
Yeah, I would like to actually state that patience is a key. And I usually like to tell my patrons who come in and are frustrated or just lost their job and they want to upload their resume, but they haven't had experience using a computer in so long. And I always try to reassure them that, and use past experiences from other patrons and say, I had a patron who came in and knew nothing about it. In just a few weeks, he was able to upload his resume. You're both in sort of the same situation, and you'll get past this.
Yeah, I think it's all about just listening to people. I feel like probably at most branches we also have times when physically it's overloaded, people really need to get on a computer and there aren't enough computers for them. But I feel lucky in that usually there's only a couple hours of the day where it's like that at my branch. And so if I see somebody is visibly, getting aggravated about it, I'll go over, I'll help them make a reservation for a later time. If they're going to work on something where they would really like my help, maybe I'm not going to be there that day later in the afternoon, but I can help them the next day. So I think, people are very understanding about, we don't have, 80 computers, but we will find a way to be there with you and help you. And if it's something that they're working on where they have their own device where they can bring it in, letting them know, hey, we have Wi-Fi, you can bring your laptop in, you can have your phone here. Maybe it's something I can help you with that way.
I don't know that I have anything to add to the patience question. I'm patient, and it does take a lot of patience. One thing that is really important to remember, though, and I think in any situation where you're dealing with lots of different kinds of people, and they come in, patrons are frustrated, or they're having challenges in their life, and they have things going on. It's never, I mean, you're just there to assist them as best you can. It's never about you, or they're not directing anything at you. So you have to be, I think you have to be really mindful of that it's, you're just there to help them, and if they are expressing frustration, it really has absolutely nothing to do with you. And everybody has that too. So.
Okay, we have a lot more questions, so you don't all have to answer, so if everyone wants to take a turn, we can kind of switch it up.
Hi, I'm Patty Siebert from the Chicago Public Library Foundation, and I would just like to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Brian Bannon, who is the library commissioner. At last year's eChicago, he had been on the job for 3 weeks. So now he is an all-timer with 13 months, and I think he has run every single day, ushering in a new, more tech-savvy view of how to run a huge urban library system. And a lot of the things that this great panel has talked about in terms of frustration are the things that Brian keyed in on, like on day one. The website is difficult to navigate, and it is outmoded, and that is certainly, I see a lot of heads nodding at that. That is certainly on the table of what to do about that. And if you don't know what we do for the library, we're the link between corporations and foundations and wealthy individuals who want to put money into the library. In fact, we pay for the CyberNavigators program. And our board is totally with Brian, whatever he wants to do to bring the library where it needs to be technologically. So hopefully at next year's conference, we will have more innovations, as Kate asked about, and some of the problems that are being referenced here will be solved.
Hi, my name is Nicole Steves. I'm a librarian at Harold Washington Library downtown. And a big part of my librarianship, the heart of what I do, has been to take that Tiger reference binder and get it into an online cloud-based resource for the division that I work with at Harold. And it's been a joy and a pleasure because the reference binder usefulness never ended. The reference binder format is woeful. So I know I'm dying to make my career supporting the work that you do by creating those kind of resources. And I wonder what Roberto and everyone is doing to support you to connect with librarians and to connect you with those kind of cloud-driven resources so that it's easy for you to know things like how to look for selective enrollment schools at the right information at the right time, which is what we can do for you. How are you facilitating that, Roberto?
In addition to that,
I would just say I'm from DC and I'm researching that issue. Chicago is the one city that doesn't have a 211, which is I think the calling center resource that would normally provide referrals for those kinds of things. And so I'm really interested to hear what kinds of solutions have been bubbling up and what seems to be working in terms of resource directories.
okay, Sarah, do you want to address that from the branch?
We work really closely together at the branch level to answer questions that the CyberNavigator might not know. We do have 311, which is an operator-based service that actually is handy for, we use it more for referrals that are in need right at that moment. So we use 311 often for folks who need emergency shelter for the evening, family shelter for that evening. So we need a turnaround that's instantaneous. They'll actually call around and call you back, and they'll find you availability. And there's resources like that. I think that most of the branch managers and library staff have been around a while, just kind of know and are the ones who kind of disseminate that information at the branch level. And also it's being connected with your community resources. What might make Chicago a little bit different than other cities is the neighborhood, the many neighborhoods in the city, and each neighborhood has its own social safety net. So in Humboldt Park, for example, has a history of having two actually major Hull House type service organizations that have been established for many years, like I think one's 50 years, and they provide so many services at these locations that I would be silly to try to replicate them, because they provide everything from emergency food services, childcare, to ESL classes, literacy classes, childcare. Like, you see where I'm going with this, right? So this is exactly like the Jane Addams model that I'm sure most of you know as we were sitting here at UIC. So a lot of times what I find, if I call 311, I might not get the best resource because this is coming from a citywide area. But being an expert at my neighborhood and having contacts at 15 different places, I'll make a personal phone call to someone is just as effective. It's not as effective in an emergency situation. So the 311 is I need to get someone to a place that has a bed right now. But if someone's here in front of me and they're like, I really need childcare, like my babysitter flaked out, I'm starting my new job, this is really important to me to get back on my feet, I can call around to specific people that I know in the community provide childcare and find out the best way for this referral. So I think that that's kind of like how the librarians can support the CNs in that way.
We have time for about one or two more questions.
No, good question with Nicole. What am I doing to equip these fellows and as Chris goes the way we are organized now really is that every 2 weeks I get reports from everyone, from all 45 CyberNavigators. Yeah, so whenever there's, say, like a job fair or a vacancy somewhere, or some type of resource that it might be useful for everybody as a group, then I forward that and share it with all of them. However, though, it is also, which we have more time, but also the deal is that the CyberNavigator functions are very limited. Okay, so what we want to avoid is to appear that we were hiring new guys or library students and make them play the role of librarians, because that would put a lot of people quite nervous, because in this group, out of the 4 CyberNavigators, two are librarians, but the other 2 are in undergrad still. So the sense of awareness, the sense of thinking about the resources was not keen. They were not. We are not trained as librarians or reference people. So that we have to keep that in mind. Obviously, as an innovation, as we go forward, things would make sense. More training from librarians and how to address those kind of issues, as opposed of only limiting our resources, only limiting our assistance on technology-based and internet-based issues.
So a few more hands, yes. We have about 5 minutes to stick on.
Hey, my name is Erica Gamble, and I work at the Richard M. Daley branch at the Chicago Public Library, where I was a YOUMedia CyberNavigator for a year, right after I finished my NLIS at Dominican. And kind of off what Roberta was saying, I don't think that CyberNavigators who don't have library backgrounds should be worried, because they have the technology skill sets. Where I work with our current CyberNavigator now, and I show her how to use the databases I show her how to create user profiles on the databases so patrons can save their searches if they use the database frequently. So I don't think those CyberNavigators without library backgrounds need to really worry. They can learn the skills very easily. But yeah, also just having CyberNavigators working in the library, they'll show patrons how to search the catalog, find books, and I know that as a CyberNavigator, I try to connect my tweens with poetry books. Those reluctant readers, poetry books work great for them. And then we had digital cameras in YOUMedia as well. So we were able to have like poetry days where the students would write their own poetry and then record it on the video camera, and the kids would learn how to use a tripod, and yeah, I mean, it was just a great fit for the library, the CyberNavigators and YOUMedia. And you know, not all kids will be artists or photographers, but having those just experience using those cameras or a tripod, they can put that on their resume as well. So I'm just so glad that it's moving from, you know, a more adult service to the younger kids as well. We learn so much from the tweens about what's new in technology, what's cool, and so yeah, I'm just happy about all that. And go electronic badging.
In the back, did you have a question?
Question and a comment. Well, one of the reasons I came to this workshop is because I didn't know what the heck a CyberNavigator was until I saw it printed, you know, online. I'm a genealogist, probably the oldest person in the room, so I got some privileges. And primarily, I think that you need to publicize that the libraries have CyberNavigators available, because as a genealogist, we do a lot of on-site research at our libraries as well as a lot of online research, and especially with seniors and the tweens and the young people, they do have difficulty navigating around or knowing that they can navigate. So I think if somehow we could publicize that there are CyberNavigators in the library or someplace to help us and answer those questions would be, you know, now what I do if I have a problem in the library is I go to anybody, you know, maybe the janitor, maybe the security guard, you know, I'm grateful to anybody, but if there was some way to let everybody know that those skill levels were there, I think we could get a whole lot more information out, and seniors wouldn't be so reluctant.
Do you have a schedule you can give her after?
Yes, yes.
Okay, come talk to Roberto.
It's in the website, actually.
Okay.
Okay, one last question. You have your hand up.
This one is for Kameron in particular, but anybody, I mean, I know that a couple of others, like Sarah, said that they were involved with young adult and children's services as well. I was just wondering if the summer read program that you mentioned, if that had any interplay or crossover with with how you handle cyber navigation or vice versa.
Well, during the summer reading program, it was typically working with the children's librarian, so I would have interaction with children that were like ages like 4 to 15, and often it would be school groups or daycare centers, and I would have to do like enter database information in regards to book reports, whether they kept up with their daily or weekly tabs with reading. So it prepared me in regards to the shelf life database, because that is what we'll be referring to when using a CyberNavigator or when becoming a CyberNavigator. But other than that, I would say I was prepared for this position because just me jumping out and trying different things on a computer, just wanting to learn more. That prepared me more than the summer reading program, I feel.
I think they'll be more connected this year than ever before. The summer learning program, or the summer reading program, which was previously called, is quite traditional and very similar to reading programs that probably either you guys participated in at your local library when you were a kid. I mean, it was pretty much the same as it was when I was a kid, and trust me, it was a long time ago. So I think that what we're looking at now is we're going to have a lot of families who are going to be asking our CyberNavigators for help exploring the online possibilities that we're going to be presenting for the Summer Learning Challenge. I think we're also going to be having a lot of folks that aren't necessarily participating in the Learning Challenge from our organization, but one of the other 89 organizations that are going to be doing badging, but maybe don't have a technology center on point. So like if you go to camp at the Park District and you're in the program, you might not have a computer there. You might not have a computer at home, but you want to track your summer learning. So where would you go? To the library. So they might not actually be originating their badging or learning challenge at the library, but they're going to be coming in to use our technology, and that's where these guys are going to help a lot because they're going to be just kind of bridging that gap for folks.
All right. We are just out of time, but I would like to invite the GISLA students especially to invite one of the CyberNavigators to lunch. We have about an hour. The next session starts at 12:45. And let's give everyone a round of applause. Kenneth, Sarah, Thank you. And there is an